Imagine a landscape of invisible souls where existence becomes a carefully constructed illusion, where presence transforms into an elaborate act of disappearance, a profound psychological terrain inhabited by beings who have mastered the art of being nowhere and everywhere simultaneously. There exists a deep internal experience where visibility becomes a threat, where being seen feels more dangerous than complete erasure, where the very act of existing requires an extraordinary mechanism of psychological camouflage. The body speaks a language of perpetual concealment, a constant whisper of unexpressed identity, of unacknowledged presence, of a deep internal landscape where self-revelation has been systematically transformed into an intricate survival strategy. Every gesture becomes an act of disappearance, every movement a complex choreography of emotional invisibility, every breath a carefully negotiated moment of minimal existence. The mind creates elaborate defense mechanisms that transform personal identity into a shifting shadow, a permeable boundary between being and not being. Imagine the internal architecture of such a being, a vast emotional terrain where every pathway, every corridor is designed to minimize personal exposure, to protect against potential vulnerability, to create intricate systems of emotional invisibility. The self becomes a fortress constructed not with walls of presence, but with layers of strategic absence, layers of unexpressed potential, layers of accumulated strategies of disappearance that transform the experience of existence into a continuous act of psychological protection. The world sees emptiness where there is actually profound complexity. The external appearance of absence masks an internal landscape of deep, unresolved psychological struggle. Each moment of potential revelation becomes a moment of internal conflict, a silent battle between the possibility of being seen and the deeply ingrained survival mechanism of complete concealment. The psychological price is not paid in a single moment, but through a lifetime of subtle negotiations with an internal reality that has transformed visibility into a form of existential threat. And if these words awaken something inside you right now, allow yourself to respond with a small gesture of presence, maybe a like or a brief reflection. And if you feel that this journey speaks to something deep within you, subscribe so we can continue exploring these inner landscapes together. Trauma moves through such a system like an underground river, invisible yet profoundly transformative. It carves new paths, creates unexpected connections, dissolves old boundaries, reveals hidden territories of experience. The individual who hides their existence develops a remarkable sensitivity, an almost supernatural ability to anticipate potential exposure, to navigate emotional landscapes with a skill that both protects and ultimately diminishes the possibility of genuine presence. The mind becomes a vast house where certain rooms remain permanently sealed, the doors of personal identity carefully locked to prevent the flood of potential vulnerability. These locked rooms contain the most vulnerable parts of the self, the parts that were never allowed to fully develop, the parts that continue to exist in a state of perpetual suspension, waiting for a moment of true safety, waiting for a moment when being seen might finally feel possible, might finally feel safe, might finally offer a glimpse of genuine connection. Dreams become the primary sanctuary where the suppressed sense of existence can finally speak, where the carefully constructed mechanism of invisibility loses control, where the raw, unfiltered experience of potential presence can emerge in symbolic, powerful narratives that speak a language beyond words. In these nocturnal landscapes, the true depth of unexpressed identity reveals itself, a complex terrain of hidden potential, of silent suffering, of a self that has been continuously protected by its own elaborate mechanism of disappearance. The psychological landscape of perpetual concealment reveals itself as a profound act of survival, a complex strategy of emotional navigation, a way of existing that demands extraordinary resilience, extraordinary capacity for internal negotiation, extraordinary ability to maintain an internal balance that is simultaneously protective and profoundly limiting. Each breath, each moment becomes a negotiation between surviving and truly existing, between protecting the self and allowing the possibility of genuine presence. The landscape of perpetual invisibility unfolds like an intricate map drawn with invisible ink, revealing its contours only to those who have learned to see beyond the surface of apparent absence. Here in the deeper territories of psychological experience, the wounds of continuous concealment pulse with a rhythm both ancient and immediate, a silent symphony of survival that plays beneath the skin of consciousness. Each movement becomes a carefully choreographed response to years of internal hiding, a dance of constant adaptation where personal presence becomes the most elusive performer on this complex internal stage. Imagine the internal world as a complex theatrical production where multiple versions of self perform simultaneously: the shadow dweller, the wounded child, the master of disappearance, the protective guardian, each character moving with a precision born of necessity, each gesture a reflection of survival strategies developed in moments of profound emotional exposure. The mind transforms into an extraordinary mechanism of adaptation, creating intricate pathways of emotional survival so sophisticated, so nuanced that they become invisible even to the self that constructed them. The body becomes a living archive of unexpressed identity. Muscles hold tension like encrypted messages. Skin remembers moments of potential visibility that were never fully risked, spaces that were never completely revealed. These bodily memories speak a language more profound than words, a language of restraint, of continuous self-concealment, of perpetual emotional camouflage. Every sensation carries the weight of unacknowledged histories, every breath a testament to the extraordinary capacity for sustained invisibility. Relationships become complex territories of emotional negotiation, intimate spaces where personal presence is measured in the smallest of gestures, where connection is traded with extraordinary caution. The individual who hides their existence moves through emotional landscapes with the precision of a master strategist, constantly protecting, constantly disappearing, constantly maintaining the delicate balance between potential exposure and complete erasure. Intimacy transforms into a calculated dance where personal identity is never truly risked, always carefully guarded, always meticulously concealed. If you feel these insights stirring something within you, share your voice and support this space with a like. These reflections help others find their way through the same shadows. And if you wish to keep walking with us through these deeper layers of the mind, join us by subscribing. Repressed identities drift like phantom limbs through the internal landscape, fragments of unexperienced revelations, too painful to be fully remembered yet too powerful to be completely forgotten. These potential moments of presence exist in a state of perpetual suspension, creating internal weather systems of unexplained emotions, sudden triggers, unexpected waves of grief or longing that emerge without apparent warning, breaking through the carefully constructed facade of emotional invisibility. The psychological defense mechanisms become both shield and prison, intricate systems of protection that simultaneously guard and limit the essential self. What appears as absence is frequently a delicate illusion maintained through continuous internal work, through constant vigilance, through an almost superhuman capacity for emotional self-concealment. Each moment of apparent emptiness conceals layers of unprocessed experience, layers of unexpressed potential, layers of survival strategies that transform personal existence into an act of pure psychological protection. Dreams become the primary sanctuary where the suppressed sense of self can finally speak, where the locked rooms of internal experience can momentarily open, where the true depth of unexpressed identity can breathe and reveal itself. In these nocturnal landscapes, the master of disappearance loses control, the carefully maintained boundaries soften, and the raw, unfiltered experience of personal presence emerges in symbolic, powerful narratives that transcend ordinary language. The external world and internal reality create a constant negotiation, a complex dance where appearance and essence move in intricate counterpoint. Survival becomes an art form, a continuous process of adaptation, of finding meaning, of creating space for emotional healing within the most challenging of circumstances. Each breath, each movement, each moment of awareness becomes an opportunity for transformation, for reclaiming the stolen territories of personal existence. The shadow emerges not as an enemy to be conquered but as the most profound teacher, the silent messenger carrying the most intimate truths of fractured existence. Here in the deepest terrain of psychological awakening, the masks of continuous concealment dissolve, the elaborate constructions of emotional invisibility fall away, and the raw essence of human experience reveals itself in its most naked, vulnerable state. This is the moment of true confrontation, where the hidden self and the potential for genuine presence meet in a landscape beyond time, beyond narrative, beyond explanation. Pain transforms from an adversary into a complex language, a profound communication system through which the suppressed sense of being speaks its most fundamental truths. Each tremor, each hidden wound, each unexpressed identity carries a melody, a silent symphony of survival that has been playing continuously within the internal chambers of being. The body becomes a living archive, storing not just memories of hiding but entire universes of unspoken potential, entire galaxies of emotion compressed into microscopic moments of self-erasure. The psychological landscape reveals itself as a terrain of extraordinary complexity, where every mechanism of self-protection, every defense strategy becomes visible in its profound beauty and devastating fragility. Survival is not a linear journey but a constant dance of negotiation, a moment-by-moment navigation through internal landscapes more intricate than any external geography, more challenging than any physical terrain, more demanding than any visible battle of continuous emotional concealment. Trauma moves through the system like an underground river, invisible yet profoundly transformative, carving new paths, creating unexpected connections, dissolving old boundaries, revealing hidden territories of potential experience. The persistent mechanism of hiding that once seemed like a protective strategy now reveals itself as a delicate, intricate web of adaptations, a complex system of survival that both protected and systematically diminished the essential self. In this deepest layer of psychological exploration, the distinction between concealment and transformation becomes meaningless. They are not opposing forces but fundamental aspects of the same profound transformative process. The wounded shadow dweller, the invisible self, the silent observer, all merge into a singular consciousness, a moment of extraordinary integration where fragmentation gives way to a more holistic understanding of human experience. The internal landscape breathes with a rhythm beyond individual experience, a collective pulse that connects personal suffering with a more universal narrative of human resilience. Each moment of forced invisibility, each strategy of survival becomes a testament to the extraordinary capacity of human consciousness to transform, to adapt, to find meaning in the most challenging of circumstances. Memories no longer function as fixed narratives but as living, breathing entities that shift and transform with each moment of awareness. The past is not something that happened but a continuous process of interpretation and reintegration, a dynamic field of energy that can be reshaped, reimagined, reconstructed through conscious presence, through profound, compassionate awareness of the self. The psychological wounds that once seemed like insurmountable barriers now reveal themselves as portals of transformation, gateways to a more authentic, deeper, more profound understanding of self. Each painful memory, each suppressed moment of potential visibility, each forgotten instance of potential connection becomes an opportunity for radical healing, a chance to rewrite the internal narrative, to reclaim the stolen territories of personal existence. Consciousness expands beyond individual experience, touching something more profound, something that transcends personal history, something that connects the individual journey with a more universal understanding of human suffering and human potential. The boundaries between personal and collective experience begin to dissolve, revealing a more interconnected, more compassionate understanding of human experience. I'll create Part 4, focusing on integration, healing, and the final emotional resolution. In the soft luminescence of understanding, healing emerges not as a final destination but as a continuous unfolding, a gentle awakening of the true self long hidden beneath layers of continuous concealment and emotional invisibility. The journey through the landscape of perpetual hiding reveals itself as a profound metamorphosis where the wounds of endless self-erasure become the very source of wisdom, the very ground of compassionate self-understanding. The fragmented self begins to reassemble not as a rejection of protection but as a creation of something entirely new, a more integrated, more authentic presence that honors both the wounded shadow dweller and the potential for genuine visibility. Each moment of suffering, each strategy of survival becomes a thread in a larger tapestry of human experience, a complex, beautiful, intricate narrative of resilience, of transformation, of profound inner strength. Healing is not about eliminating the need for protection but about creating a new relationship with experience, a profound dialogue between invisibility and possibility, between surviving and truly existing. The locked rooms of potential presence begin to open, not with violence or force but with gentle, compassionate awareness. Memories that once seemed threatening now become sources of insight, sources of profound understanding, sources of unexpected beauty. The body releases its long-held tensions, muscles soften, breath deepens, the internal landscape begins to breathe with a new rhythm, a rhythm of balance, of integration, of profound self-compassion. What once seemed like wounds now reveal themselves as portals of transformation, as gateways to a more authentic, more deeply felt experience of being alive, of being present, of being truly seen. If you feel that this story helped you see your own inner landscape more clearly, offer a like and share your thoughts. And if you want this space to remain part of your journey ahead, subscribe. Together we continue the path of understanding, healing, and awakening. The distinction between concealment and liberation dissolves into a more profound understanding. Survival becomes not a strategy but a form of art, a complex, beautiful, intricate dance of consciousness. The persistent mechanism of hiding that once seemed like an insurmountable challenge now reveals itself as a profound teacher, a source of unexpected wisdom, a testament to the extraordinary capacity of human consciousness to transform. Forgiveness emerges not as a single moment but as a continuous process, a gentle, ongoing dialogue with the self, a profound acceptance of the journey that brought you to this moment. The wounded shadow dweller, the invisible self, the silent observer all find their place in a more expansive, more compassionate internal landscape, a landscape of profound understanding and radical self-love. The world begins to look different, perception shifts, understanding deepens. What once seemed like limitations become sources of strength, what seemed like endless invisibility becomes a portal of transformation. The psychological journey reveals itself as a sacred path, a profound opportunity for growth, for healing, for a more authentic, more deeply felt experience of being alive. Consciousness expands beyond individual experience, touching a more universal understanding of human resilience. The personal story becomes a thread in a larger tapestry of human experience, a testament to the extraordinary capacity for healing, for transformation, for profound self-understanding. The journey of healing continues not as a destination but as a continuous, beautiful unfolding of human potential. In this moment of profound integration, the true self emerges not as a fixed identity but as a living, breathing, dynamic process of becoming. The boundaries between concealment and liberation, between pain and healing, between individual and collective experience begin to dissolve, revealing a more interconnected, more compassionate, more profound understanding of what it means to be fully alive. If something in these words stirred a truth inside you, don't ignore it. Follow the channel and continue this inner journey with me. You were never meant to walk it alone.